On today's World Insight, worries over soaring fuel prices as OPEC Plus announces a big supply cut. What does the cut mean for global inflation in the coming months and relations between the U.S. and big oil producer Saudi Arabia? And here's our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Global oil supplies are set to tighten after OPEC Plus announced their largest supply cuts since 2020, intensifying concerns over soaring inflation. Last Wednesday, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and other oil-producing countries, including Russia, agreed to slash output by about 2 million barrels per day, just ahead of the peak winter season. Saudi Arabia said the move was necessary to respond to rising interest rates in the West and a weaker global economy. However, it has widened a diplomatic rift between the Saudi-backed bloc and Western nations, as coincides with European Union embargoes on Russian energy. The White House said President Joseph Biden was disappointed by the decision and would continue to assess whether to release further strategic oil stocks to lower prices. So, what's the impact of the output cut on global energy prices, especially Europe's energy struggle this coming winter? And what does that mean for the relations between Saudi Arabia and the United States? Let's loop in our panelists. For OPEC Plus oil production cut in Riyadh, Ahmed Al-Ibrahim, specialist on Saudi Arabia political and security. In Shanghai, Joseph Gregory Mahoney, professor of political science with East China Normal University. In Paris, Paul Dorfman, honorary senior research associate at the Energy Institute from University College London. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Mr. Al-Ibrahim, what is the political and energy message inside this?
Oil prices are driven by economic activities. As we recover from the pandemic and all the challenges of the global economy and the overheating of the economy, the demand of oil went pre-COVID. So since we are in a tight market and oil supply and demand changes reflect on prices much faster than usual, the slapping sanctions, which is reducing the supply of oil or restricting non-oil sanctional oil, means that we have a supply crunch or running out of a supply capacity.
Let me go to you, Mr. Dorfman. What is the message you're receiving out of this decision?
There are various views about what this implies. It comes a day after the EU placed more sanctions, especially on Russian crude. And there are concerns that in a political sense, there seems to be some sort of, if not alignment, at least some form of deeper association with Russia here. The Biden administration doesn't like it. Europe is concerned and worried about it.
Mr. Mahoney, your thoughts?
Well, I don't think it's quite fair to say that OPEC is aligning with Russia. Rather, it's probably fair to say that the Western sanctions regime, plus rising U.S. interest rates and falling demand, are creating conditions affecting the global oil market. And this is leading OPEC to respond in ways that reflect the interest of major oil producers, which include Russia. So this is not a political alignment.
Look at the oil prices, $80 a barrel. Now we see a further rise recently. Compared to early June, $65 a barrel. There's also possibility of, some suggest, $100 a barrel a few months from now if this continues. For example, this reduction of 2 million barrels a day. Is there going to be more impact of this as a result of the price change for the global economy? Mr. Al-Ibrahim.
Well, higher oil prices is not good for Saudi Arabia. We import inflation. We import these high prices. So we need to look at a certain equilibrium That's actually where the right prices come into, let's say, $80 to $90. Inflation is controlled at a certain stage or a certain percentage that the local citizens of these oil production companies, they don't import this kind of inflation from the United States.
What does that mean for the oil industry worldwide, including those oil companies that are based in the United States, for example, in the UK? And what does that mean also for the energy transition and energy options these economies might have in mind? Mr. Dorfman, since you've been doing energy analysis and research, what is your idea about the latest situation?
Along with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, we're clearly seeing that our current energy formulation is unsustainable. We need to transition. World electricity demand in the first half of 2022 was about 389 terawatts. All of that was met by new renewables. So clearly, we have a problem here and now. We have a problem for the coming winter and the next. And we know that we are very dependent on fossil fuels, yet we must move away from that. Now, what that meant is that we avoided, with our new renewables additions in the first half of this year, we saved about £40 billion in fuel costs and saved about 230 megatons of CO2. So when one thinks about it, when one thinks about the future, the renewable evolution is coming.
What does that mean for some of the other options? For example, even some talk about the nuclear options.
Renewables about 9 times, new renewables about 9 times less expensive than new gas. New renewables are about 5 times cheaper than new nuclear. As we've seen in Ukraine, with the weaponization of civil nuclear, all that implies for nuclear in an increasingly unstable world. The problem with nuclear largely is that it takes so long time to put down. You're talking about between 10 and 15 years between planning and first generation. So in the context of where we are with the energy transition, with our current problem in terms of fossil fuels and in terms of renewables, it's really much too late to help us, especially with our climate dilemma.
Fracking, as a result, that's likely to happen even more and faster. How do you see these different options?
We had lower prices of gasoline or petrol than European countries did. So there's a lot of I think ways that people can cut consumption. I think we've already seen that will help offset some of the prices, and that's one of the things that, of course, is pushing down demand and inspiring OPEC to cut production. But that said, I don't think we really see a comprehensive U.S. strategy to move towards renewable energy. We have seen this, half-hearted fracking. Are we doing it? Are we not doing it? The pipeline controversies. So, but all of these things are not well positioned to move forward quickly. So I don't see something happening in those terms, and certainly not nuclear or these other possibilities, because as Dorfman said, the time to really get those up and running is too long.
I see that there are already opinion leaders, some of them in the U.S., talking about more building of pipelines, transmission lines, and things like that from the U.S. to Europe. Do you see that could happen in short term? How much does the European continent look at this as an option?
What's happening in Ukraine, what's happened in Russia has had a huge impact on Europe. And we expect significant problems this winter. There's no question about it. There's been various imports, LNG and or otherwise, both from the Gulf states and from America. But there's no question about it. We will face a long, cold winter. And that comes at a time, for example, that at the moment, half of France's nuclear fleet is offline with various corrosion and aging problems. So we face two issues here. One is the immediate future. How will we get through this winter? What will happen next year or so? And the longer term future in terms of where are we going with the energy transition? The European Union has rolled out a sort of a renewable agenda, costed about 210 billion euros, which hopes to raise about 370 billion in public-private finance to transition to renewables. And that's largely, I suppose, on the back of the German Energiewende, the German energy transition.
But let's also talk about the issue of money and the currency, and what does that mean?
So if oil supply shocks create more demand for dollar liquidity, because people, 90% of the oil sales are denominated in dollars, in a time of growing dollar scarcity, in addition to the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates that are in turn suppressing demand in general, then we can see how cutting production will increase prices and the value of the dollar in ways that undercut what the Fed is currently trying to do, which includes squelching inflation and hyper-dollarization, thereby keeping pressure on American consumers, but also politicians, as well as those in other countries. Now, currently, the dollar strength index, the DXY, is 112.7. It was recently as high as 114.5, which is approaching the historical highs of 120, which occurred during the dot-com bust. Therefore, some believe we might be entering a period of hyper-dollarization, which could see us exceeding previous recorded highs, and then with this perhaps accelerating over time, smashing other currencies, perhaps reaching 150 or even 175 before collapsing. And this would have broad implications for the role of the dollar as a supranational currency and the economy overall.
It's very interesting because when the head of the Fed comes and starts putting up interest rate, America is looking at their interest, and this is their basic rights. Now, we are tied with the U.S. dollar. We're pegged to the U.S. dollar, so the economy in GCC is booming. So by raising interest rate in America, we automatically over here, our banks raises the interest rate, as you know. And so what's happened? Economy slows down. Challenges are becoming more to slow down. Even though we are ready to go pursue Vision 2030, these things still hold us back. So when OPEC Plus, or when Saudi Arabia leads OPEC Plus in some ways, and they take these kind of decisions, also they, in my opinion, they do have the rights to look out for their economic values and economic interests and what they foresee in the short vision and the long one. Also, there's challenges that the United States have. They've never built a refinery since the 70s. They already have a refinery down. They are not fixing it. They've never dug for coal or fracking. And this is not a game for Saudi Arabia or the OPEC Plus to interfere in the midterm election or make President Biden look good or make bad. This is not even in the radar. The thing is, we have a commodity, we have oil prices.
You're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. You're watching World Insight. Now let's move on to the political side. Even though some of you suggest it has nothing to do with politics, but still many suspect there might be an impact on politics at least. Mr. Dorfman, tell me more about how do you see from the European perspective?
The decision, OPEC Plus decision, has come very shortly after the European decision to enhance sanctions on Russia, specifically oil. It comes the day after, as a matter of fact. The actual impact of OPEC Plus decision will be deleterious. It certainly won't be helpful for Europe facing a cold winter, facing a war in Ukraine. So one can argue that these political, strategic military implications have nothing to do with the, as it were, economic, financial, pragmatic decisions by OPEC. However, in the real world, they are and will have very specific consequences. So the question remains, is this a deliberate move or not? And I couldn't possibly judge.
Mr. Ibrahim, how do you see Saudi is articulating the latest decision, and what does that mean for the U.S.-Saudi relations?
In my opinion, this administration and President Biden, they are all charged against Saudi Arabia no matter what we do. I think they need to understand the communication plan has been given by the Minister of Energy. It's clear what's the reason and the outcome of this petition. Again, is it not Saudi Arabia? It's not Saudi Arabia actually siding with Russia, and they keep boxing Saudi Arabia with Russia, and this is something unacceptable. But hey, this is America, and this is the funny time of everybody trying to hang their issues and the problems in order to win the midterm election. So Saudi Arabia has a policy, has an interest, has OPEC Plus, has mandated that they sign with other countries, and they respect these kind of contracts, and they're going to do whatever it takes. Now, if there is a sense of anything that might hurt the economy, or it's going to do an impact that is unexpected, definitely OPEC Plus will revise these kind of questions. So as much as the United States and this administration is really furious about Saudi Arabia, and it's making it all over the news, it's kind of hypocrisy, again, when the U.S. Government sells the LNG to Germany and to France 4 times what it was getting it from Russia, and these things are voicing their concern, and nobody talks about it. So if I don't align as Saudi Arabia, myself, with the interest of the U.S. government and the American people, I am not their friends, and I need to ignore my interests in my own country and my own government and my own people. And that's what the United States needs to understand. Each country has to look for their interests.
We understand the U.S. is still the largest security partner, quote unquote, of the GCC countries, with Saudi Arabia included. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is still buying weapons from the United States. Well, some of the U.S. opinion makers say, oh, let's just keep that part not touched, but also being, quote unquote, clear-sided and cold-blooded in the policies toward Saudi Arabia. So what does that mean to Saudi Arabia, looking at the overall geopolitical picture for your best interest?
Listen, the United States, it's our ally. We are tied by the hip. American policy at these days are really divided. So when somebody comes and talks about this in the floor of the Congress, this is just expressing his opinion. On the ground, it's not going to happen. The relationship, in my opinion, is more solid. Weapons are sold all over the place. The American technology definitely is second to none. However, there is other markets are open. So if America keep pushing Saudi Arabia away, there is other markets we can go to. There's South Korea, there's China, there's other countries that they can offer what the United States, similarly to what the United States offer. But Saudi Arabia is always aligned with the United States. Again, this is not healthy for the long-term relationship.
President Biden made the trip in July to Saudi Arabia with the hope of what he called then to elevate the relationship. Of course, at that time, it seems that the result was quite bleak to begin with, and now we see also OPEC Plus, out of various reasons, cutting the export to the rest of the world. So how do you see the Biden administration's approach to Saudi Arabia and GCC countries as a whole? Has it been successful? What would this latest decision mean for the quote-unquote Washington debate about what to do with Saudi Arabia, what's going to be the nature of relations between Washington and also GCC, Mr. Mahoney?
Well, I'll bridge this to your previous question. First, the U.S. wants to sell those weapons to Saudi Arabia, regardless of whether it gets more oil. Second, as has been made clear by other people, OPEC Plus has the opportunity to make more money, given the current circumstances, and is rationally acting in self-interest. Third, we've seen a lot of press about possible or likely personal animosity between Biden and the royal family. But I think more importantly, what we are seeing is diverging strategic interest, in so much as Biden supports fighting climate change. So undercutting Biden and the Democrats' re-election chances would be a smart strategy for a country that wants to continue selling fossil fuels. Fourth, the U.S. is an important strategic partner, still is, for the Gulf countries, but it's no longer really viewed, I think, at least as it was, as a security guarantor in the Middle East. I think it's increasingly viewed as going its own way, as being increasingly disengaged, or even in some cases a growing security threat. So there are less compelling reasons to do what Washington wants. So I think, as Washington is sitting back and thinking about what they want to do with the Middle East, or with Saudi Arabia in particular, I think it's also clear that people in Riyadh are also making their own calculations and looking at a very fast-moving and dynamic geostrategic environment.
Mr. Al Ibrahim, how is Riyadh thinking about the so-called question of balance, or probably some even use the word hedge, under the current circumstances, both in the economic sense and also in the political sense?
From a security point of view, in my opinion, the United States is still committed to the region. We have the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. We have the military base in Qatar. We have a couple carriers in the Arabian Sea and a couple carriers in the Mediterranean, all on within call of demand. Since the past 2 years, the amount of joint forces training between the Saudi army and the American army has unprecedented. The B-52 flies, all the training is happening, all the presence of the military is here. So this kind of synergy is happening with the Saudi government. And again, America is the number one country when it comes to these kind of things, and it's great. Department of Defense, the Pentagon understands Saudi Arabia. The intelligence community in America understands Saudi Arabia. The NSA do understand Saudi Arabia. The two entities that are confused about Saudi is the White House and the State Department. And these kind of things changes every 2 or 4 years. And this is why we have this emotional roller coaster with Washington all the time. I think the relationship is going to stay solid. This is it's still a commitment. It's still an ally. We see a lot of foreign investment companies coming to America, investing in the new vision, into the biggest project that we have here. So we hope these things will continue and will take over the politics and the funny times at the White House and the Democrats that are trying to raise, and ensure the security and the alliances with the United States is always going to continue with Saudi Arabia.
Lastly, before we go, very briefly from every one of you, we see the decision to cut the exports 2 million barrels a day, which is about 2% of the global demand, is being made for the time from November, likely to December, because the OPEC Plus is going to have, according to the plan, the next meeting in December. Do you see that is likely to continue, the cut of productions, or there's likely to be more meandering of discussions as a result of the latest decision?
There needs to be compromise from all sides. People need to understand and bridge the cultural and political gaps that separates us. The Biden administration perhaps needs a deeper understanding of OPEC plus doctrine, ideology, and thinking about themselves as a rational actor. And equally, perhaps OPEC Plus needs to consider on a deeper level commitments to Europe and elsewhere.
If they're going to see the real data of the market and they perceive the global economy and the global reactions and other factors that I'm not aware of, but definitely they're going to make a decision. And I really don't think that actually the cut is going to physically go to 2 million. Maybe it's going to go to 1.1 million. So I'm sure they do have a mechanism on how to do it. It's a great way of testing it, and I think if they find an issue, they will reverse it, or they will come back to that sense of production. In the meantime, I'm sure they're doing it gradually.
Yeah, I think it depends on where the market is. If this contributes to, or we're already likely to see a recession. If this price increase deepens the recession and lowers demand even more, then they have to think about do they cut prices? Do they increase to cut prices to try to help stimulate the global economies? But the main issue here is that I think everyone understands that the West right now is completely committed to this sanctions regime against Russia, and politically, the Biden administration doesn't control the Federal Reserve, and it's very committed to trying to get inflation under control. So I think these two pressures are going to continue to drive policymaking by OPEC.
Very interesting discussion. Thank you so much, every one of you, for participating. Paul Dorfman, Joseph Gregory Mahoney, Ahmed El Ibrahim. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight. Check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. On behalf of the team, thanks for being with us.